Michael Schumacher takes the lead.
I don't know why, but when I was in the motorhome today, I thought I'm able to win this race. I mean, you dream about the ideal result, and that was one of the dreams I have.
Michael Schumacher is one of the greatest drivers of all time for a number of reasons. An aggressive and unique driving style, unmatched pace, and overtaking skills. But there was one ability in particular that made Schumacher stand out: his strategic acumen. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Enjoy the video. Over the course of his Formula One career, Schumacher delivered a number of unforgettable drives. And some of these drives were only possible because of the seven-time champion's ability to read the flow of the race. Combined with another genius in race engineer Ross Brawn, Schumacher often made bold moves that paid off big time. Check out some of his most iconic tactical calls. 1999 Malaysian Grand Prix. Schumacher was knocked out of the 1999 title fight after suffering a broken leg following a terrifying brake failure at Silverstone. The German returned to action on the penultimate round, the inaugural Malaysian Grand Prix, and took on a supporting role to help teammate Eddie Irvine. Without missing a beat, Schumacher demolished the opposition in qualifying, scoring pole position by a full second. 3 laps into the race, he ceded the lead to the Irishman. The German then deliberately slowed down to allow the light-fueled Irvine build a 20-second lead. McLaren tried to do the same strategy with Mika Häkkinen, but the Finn wasn't able to get past Schumacher. In the end, Irvine led Schumacher home in a 1-2 finish for Ferrari, with Häkkinen down in third. That day, Schumacher showed that he was a tactical mastermind even when playing a supporting role. Despite Schumacher's best efforts, Häkkinen went on to win the title in the final round, forcing Ferrari to wait another year before finally ending its 2-decade drought. And the long wait ended with yet another masterful tactical display by the German. 2000 Japanese Grand Prix. Entering his 5th season at Ferrari, the pressure was starting to build up on Schumacher and the Scuderia, after narrowly missing out on the title in previous years for different reasons. The 2000 season was seen as a make-it-or-break-it year. Schumacher led the standings from the first race of the season, and he had a chance to wrap up the championship in Japan, with 1 race to go. After starting on pole, Schumacher was passed by Häkkinen at the start. Having failed to leapfrog the Finn at the end of the first stint, Schumacher and Ross Brawn decided to extend the second stint. And then, Schumacher did what he knew best. Delivering a sequence of blistering laps, the German emerged from his second stop ahead of his title rival, even after getting slowed down by yellow flags along the way. The German went on to win the race, securing his first world championship with Ferrari and 3rd overall. After 21 long years, the Scuderia's title drought was finally over. 1997 Monaco Grand Prix. In his 2nd season with Ferrari, Schumacher took the fight to the much faster Adrian Newey-designed Williams. At Monaco, the German qualified behind the Grove Squad's duo, with Heinz-Harald Frentzen starting on pole, and championship leader Jacques Villeneuve lining up second. A few minutes before the start, the circuit was hit by a sudden shower. The 2 Williams opted to stay on slicks, while Schumacher made the call to switch to wets. The decision paid off right away, rocketing off the grid as the 2 Williams struggled for grip. The German jumped to the lead, and he had already built a colossal 16-second gap by the end of the first lap. With a masterful drive, Schumacher won by over 53 seconds from future Ferrari teammate Rubens Barrichello, and briefly took the championship lead away from Villeneuve. 2005 San Marino Grand Prix. Following a highly controversial rule change, introduced to deliberately slow Schumacher and Ferrari down, the 7-time champion found himself struggling with an uncompetitive car in 2005. But that didn't stop Schumacher from delivering one of his most underrated drives at Imola. Starting down in 13th, the German legend decided to go with an unconventional strategy. While most drivers opted to run 2 short stints, Schumacher did 2 long opening stints instead. Since drivers weren't allowed to change tires, he knew that the overcut could work, as it would give him a clear track without the downside of running on slower rubber. After the first stint, Schumacher emerged from the pits in 3rd place. He chased down Jenson Button and passed the Brit on track to move up to 2nd. Having made a much shorter final stop and running on a much lighter fuel load during his final stint, the 7-time champion slashed the gap to race leader Fernando Alonso. Following a titanic duel, the Spaniard crossed the line to win by only 0.2 of a second. Schumacher had pulled off a miraculous recovery drive, going from 13th on the grid to narrowly missing out on a win. 1998 British Grand Prix. While Schumacher's 1998 British Grand Prix win wasn't as epic or as brilliant as some of his other victories, it was another display of the German's ability to come up with solutions on the fly. Driving on a very wet Silverstone, Schumacher dropped almost a full minute behind Michael Hakkinen. However, the Finn cracked and made multiple mistakes, which ultimately allowed the German to get by him. The safety car was deployed with 17 to go, and Schumacher accidentally overtook the Benetton of Alexander Wurz under the yellow flags. Race control awarded a 10-second stop-and-go penalty to the Ferrari driver, but only issued the verdict with 2 laps to go. Schumacher then did the unthinkable. On the final lap, he pulled into the pits to serve the stop-and-go. Ferrari's pit box was located past the start-finish line, which meant that Schumacher had crossed the line to win the race before serving the stop-and-go. A cheeky move that perfectly exploited a gray area within the rules. In the end, because of several mistakes on race control's part, the penalty was ultimately rescinded. But Schumacher's clever move went down in F1 history as one of his best tactical calls. 1992 Belgian Grand Prix. Schumacher had made his F1 debut at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit in 1991, and he had impressed enough to secure a drive with Benetton after only 1 start. A year later, the iconic Belgian track witnessed his first career win. In a wet-dry race, Schumacher went off track with 15 laps to go. Dropping behind teammate Martin Brundle, the German noticed that a blister was forming on the Brits' wet weather tires, a sign that the track was getting dry enough for slicks. With a 2-lap jump on the competition, Schumacher made the bold call to come in for a set of dry weather tires. Once the rest of the field made the switch, the German youngster inherited a colossal lead. In the end, he crossed the line with a 36-second gap to score his maiden win, and one that already showcased Michael Schumacher's tactical genius. 2004 French Grand Prix. The 2004 season was a magical one for Schumacher and Ferrari. On board the famous F2004, the German won the first 5 races to match Nigel Mansell's record from 1992. He then followed it up with another 7 in a row after Monaco, equaling Alberto Ascari's record for the most consecutive wins. The most special one from the streak came at Magny-Cours. Schumacher started the French Grand Prix from second, behind Fernando Alonso. The German followed Alonso closely for 2 stints, but couldn't find a way by, as the twisty Magny-Cours layout made overtaking almost impossible. And then, Schumacher and Ross Brawn made a bold call. Go for an extra pit stop to try and leapfrog Alonso. Having short fuel during the second pit stop, Schumacher emerged ahead of Alonso. He kept the lead after the 3rd pit stop, and then the magic happened. With a clean track ahead of him, Schumacher did what he did best. Running the qualifying stint, the German delivered a sequence of blistering laps to build a 21-second lead. He made the 4th and final pit stop with 12 laps to go, and returned to the track comfortably ahead of Alonso. Schumacher stretched his lead to 11 seconds before slowing down during the final laps. In the end, even with an extra pit stop, the German crossed the line to win by 8 seconds from Alonso. With that, Schumi set a new F1 record for the most pit stops done by a race winner. 1995 Belgian Grand Prix. Schumacher was also one of F1's best in the wet, which earned him the nickname Regionmeister. And one of his greatest tactical masterpieces was the 1995 Belgian Grand Prix. A master of Spa, Schumi is the F1 record holder at the legendary venue, with 6 wins. His 1995 triumph came in a classic Spa race, with constantly changing weather. Starting all the way back in 16th, the German methodically carved his way up the order. On lap 16, he took the lead of the race when Damon Hill pitted for new tires. The rain started to fall, prompting Hill to pit for wets. Schumacher, however, decided to gamble and braved the wet track on a worn set of slicks. Hill had little trouble closing down the gap, lapping considerably quicker than his rival. However, despite his massive pace advantage, Hill was unable to get by the German's Benetton, with Schumacher putting on an aggressive defensive drive. The Brit briefly got by on lap 25, but was passed again on the following lap, with the track now almost completely dry. Hill was forced to pit again for slicks, handing Schumacher an even bigger lead. Once again, Schumi had shown his immense talent in the wet, driving with worn slicks on the slippery surface while fending off the attacks from a much quicker car. Following another shower, both drivers pitted for wets, and Schumacher went on to win the race by nearly 20 seconds. 1998 Hungarian Grand Prix. 1998 Hungarian Grand Prix. Schumacher's ability to deliver qualifying laps whenever he had a clean track ahead of him was arguably his best trait. The German was deadly on short stints and in laps, often taking advantage of them to deliver the decisive blow. Starting third around the tight and twisty Hungaroring, Schumacher didn't have the pace nor the track space to overtake the too much faster McLarens ahead of him. Working together with Braun, Schumi decided to roll the dice, switching to a three-stopper on the fly. In other words, he would have to make one more pit stop than the two leading cars. This meant that Schumacher would need to drive a qualifying stint in order to make up for the speed deficit, and for the extra stop as well. Braun radioed his driver in to confirm the strategy. "Michael, you have 19 laps to pull out 25 seconds. We need 19 qualifying laps from you." Schumi replied with nothing more than a thank you, put his head down, and set off on his mission. Just as we said, this was Schumacher's speciality. Taking advantage of the lighter fuel load, the German legend complied with Braun's seemingly unreasonable request and delivered 19 qualifying laps to close out the race. Lapping 1.8 seconds faster on average than the chasing McLarens, Schumacher opened a 27-second gap before making his final stop, with 12 to go. He emerged with a 5-second lead over second-place David Coulthard and went on to win by over 9 seconds. The F1 world had just witnessed yet another strategic masterpiece by the Red Baron. These are Schumacher's most impressive tactical calls. Do you recall other great strategic races from the German legend? Share your memories with us down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.